The chamber is open and full of whispers.
What if the most devoted Death Eater in history had found Harry Potter in the ruins of Godric's Hollow? What if Bellatrix Lestrange, mad, fanatical, utterly devoted to Lord Voldemort, had looked at the baby who survived the killing curse and seen not an enemy to destroy, but the ultimate trophy to corrupt? This is that story. The story of how Harry Potter became a weapon instead of a hero. How the boy who lived was transformed into the Dark Lord's perfect servant. How love's protection existed in his very blood, while his mind was systematically trained to despise everything love represented. This isn't a story about a better childhood. This is a story about the darkest possible path, and whether the residue of a mother's sacrifice can survive when everything conspires to extinguish it. Let's begin where everything went wrong. Halloween, 1981. The trophy, November 1st, 1981. 12:47 a.m. Bellatrix Lestrange apparated into the outskirts of Godric's Hollow with her wand drawn and murder in her heart. The dark mark still burned on her forearm. Not the summoning she'd expected, but something else. A disturbance in the magic, a wrongness that made her skin crawl. She moved through the village streets like a shadow, her dark robes blending with the night. Other witches and wizards were beginning to emerge from their homes, drawn by the same magical disturbance. Bellatrix ignored them. She had one destination, the Potter cottage. She found it destroyed. The upper floor had collapsed, the door hung off its hinges, and the dark mark, her lord's mark, hovered green and ghostly above the ruins. No, Bellatrix whispered. No, no, no. She ran, through the broken door, over splintered wood, past the body of James Potter sprawled in the entrance hall. She barely glanced at him, the blood traitor who'd dared marry a mudblood who'd defied the Dark Lord 3 times. Dead now, as he should be. But where was the Dark Lord? Bellatrix took the stairs 3 at a time. The nursery door was blasted off its hinges. Inside, Lily Potter lay dead on the floor, her red hair spread around her head like blood. And in the crib, crying softly, was Harry Potter. Bellatrix stared at the baby, at the fresh lightning bolt scar on his forehead, still bleeding slightly, at his impossibly green eyes, his mother's eyes, staring up at her without comprehension. The Dark Lord was gone, vanished, and this child, this half-blood spawn of a blood traitor and a mudblood, had somehow survived. Bellatrix's first instinct was to kill him. Avada Kedavra. Simple, clean, finish what the Dark Lord had started. But her wand stayed at her side, because Bellatrix Lestrange understood something in that moment that would change everything. The Dark Lord was not dead. He couldn't be dead. He'd taken precautions. She knew he had, even if she didn't know the specifics. He would return. And when he did, he would want revenge on the child who'd somehow caused his downfall. Or she could give him something better than revenge. She could give him the ultimate weapon. The prophecy, she'd heard whispers of it. A child with power the Dark Lord knew not. Power that could vanquish him. What if that power could be harnessed instead of destroyed? What if she could corrupt Dumbledore's symbol of hope, transform the boy who lived into the Dark Lord's perfect servant? The idea crystallized with sudden, brilliant clarity. When the Dark Lord returned, and he would return, Bellatrix would present him with Harry Potter, not as an enemy, but as a weapon. Trained, indoctrinated, utterly devoted, the boy who'd defeated him, remade as his most loyal follower. It would be the greatest gift any Death Eater had ever given. Bellatrix reached into the crib and lifted Harry Potter. The baby stopped crying, staring at her with those disconcertingly green eyes. "You're mine now," Bellatrix whispered. "My gift to the Dark Lord, my triumph. And when he returns, you'll kneel before him and beg for the honor of serving." She heard voices outside. Other witches and wizards approaching the cottage. Time to leave. Bellatrix wrapped Harry in a blanket, concealing his face. Then she disapparated with a crack like breaking bone. The safe house Bellatrix appeared in the entrance hall of Malfoy Manor, with Harry still in her arms. The baby had started crying again during the apparition, and his wails echoed through the ornate space. "Bellatrix?" Narcissa's voice came from the drawing room. "Is that you?" Narcissa Malfoy appeared in the doorway, elegant even at this late hour in her silk dressing gown. Her eyes widened when she saw what Bellatrix was carrying. "Bella, what is that, a baby?" "It's Harry Potter." Narcissa went very still. "What?" "The Dark Lord attacked the Potters tonight. Something went wrong." "He's gone, Sissy." vanished. And this, Bellatrix held up Harry. This is the child who did it. The boy who lived. Bella, you need to put him back. If anyone discovers you took him, no one will discover anything. That's why I brought him here. Bellatrix's eyes were fever bright. The Dark Lord will return, Sissy. I know he will, and when he does, I'll give him Harry Potter. Trained, loyal, devoted. The ultimate weapon turned to our cause. You want to raise him? Narcissa's voice rose with disbelief. Raise James Potter's son. I want to remake him. This child has power the Dark Lord can use. Imagine it. The boy who defeated him kneeling at his feet, begging to serve. Bellatrix's smile was manic. It's perfect. It's brilliant. And you're going to help me. I absolutely am not, Sissy. Bellatrix's voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. I need you. Rodolphus is useful for many things, but raising a child isn't one of them. You have Draco. You know how to care for a baby, and this, she gestured around the manor. This is defensible, protected. Lucius has the political connections to cover for us if questions arise. Questions will arise, not if we're careful. The Fidelius charm. We'll hide him here, make this location unplottable. No one will find him unless we want them to. Bellatrix stepped closer. Please, Sissy. This is my chance to serve the Dark Lord in a way no other Death Eater could. Don't deny me this. Narcissa looked at Harry, who had finally stopped crying and was staring at her with those disturbingly green eyes. She thought of her own son, sleeping upstairs, 7 weeks old. Innocent, precious, and she thought of what it would mean to refuse her sister. Fine, Narcissa said quietly. But Bella, he stays in the East Wing, away from Draco. And if this goes wrong, if the Ministry comes, I will deny everything. Am I clear? Crystal. Bellatrix's smile returned. Don't worry, Sissy. This won't go wrong. This is destiny. The Fidelius charm 3 days later. Lucius Malfoy stood in his drawing room with Bellatrix, Narcissa, and Rodolphus Lestrange, preparing to cast the most complex protective magic in the wizarding world. You're certain about this? Lucius asked. Once the Fidelius is cast with Rodolphus as secret keeper, even I won't be able to reveal this location to others without his permission. I'm certain, Bellatrix said. Rodolphus won't betray us. He understands what we're building here. Rodolphus Lestrange, tall, brutal-looking, utterly devoted to his wife despite her obvious preference for the Dark Lord, nodded. I'll guard the secret with my life. No one will find the boy. Not the Ministry, not Dumbledore. No one. The trace won't be an issue, Lucius added, thinking through the practicalities. Underage magic detection doesn't function in wizarding households. The Ministry relies on parents to enforce their children's obedience. As long as Harry remains here, his magic will be invisible to the Ministry. What about Hogwarts? Narcissa asked. When he turns 11, won't the school send a letter? The Fidelius blocks everything, Bellatrix said. Unless Rodolphus reveals this location, no owl will find it. No letter will arrive. We'll have complete control over his education. And if you want him to attend Hogwarts, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, Bellatrix looked at Harry, who was sleeping in a conjured cradle. For now, we focus on making him ours. Lucius raised his wand. Let's begin. The Fidelius charm took hours to cast properly. It required intricate wand work, precise incantations, and absolute focus from all participants. But when it was done, Malfoy Manor, specifically the East Wing where Harry would be kept, became invisible to the outside world. Unplottable. Undetectable. Even Dumbledore, with all his power and all his instruments, couldn't find what the Fidelius hid. Harry Potter had vanished from the world. Ages 1. 5. The Foundation. The first 5 years were about breaking down what little identity Harry had and building something new in its place. Bellatrix didn't mother him. She didn't hold him when he cried, or comfort him when he woke from nightmares. She wasn't cruel in the traditional sense. She didn't beat him, or starve him, or lock him in cupboards. She simply treated him with cold efficiency, like a handler training a dangerous animal. You are not a child, Bellatrix told him when he was 3 years old, crying over a skinned knee. You are a weapon. Weapons don't cry. Weapons endure. But it hurts. Pain is information. It tells you that you were careless. Don't be careless again. She called him boy most of the time. Occasionally my dark prince when he pleased her with his magical control or his recitation of pure blood ideology. Never Harry. Never with affection. Narcissa, by contrast, was cool but not actively hostile. She ensured Harry was fed, clothed, kept clean. She taught him basic manners and social protocols that Bellatrix couldn't be bothered with. But she maintained distance. This was Bella's project, not hers. Her love was reserved entirely for Draco. The lessons began before Harry could even speak in full sentences. Magic is power, Bellatrix told him. Power is everything. Without power, you are nothing. The weak exist to serve the strong. Do you understand? Yes, Aunt Bella. Not Aunt. You will call me Bellatrix or Mistress, until you've earned the privilege of informality. Do you understand? Yes. Bellatrix. Good. Now tell me, what are mudbloods? Harry recited carefully. He'd learned this lesson early. Mudbloods are witches and wizards, born to non-magical parents. They steal magic that doesn't belong to them. They contaminate pure magical bloodlines. Correct. And what are blood traitors? Purebloods who betray their heritage by associating with mudbloods and muggles. They're worse than mudbloods because they choose to disgrace their blood. Excellent. Bellatrix's rare smile was sharp and cold. You're learning well, boy. The Dark Lord will be pleased with you. The Dark Lord. Bellatrix spoke of him constantly. Lord Voldemort, the greatest wizard who ever lived, temporarily defeated, but destined to return. She showed Harry pictures from old daily prophets, described his power, his vision, his absolute right to rule the wizarding world. He is perfection, Bellatrix said, her eyes glazing with fanatical devotion, power and purity combined. When he returns, we will kneel before him, and you will have the honor of serving him directly. Why me? Harry asked once, when he was 4. Bellatrix studied him. Because you survived his curse. Because you carry his mark. She traced the lightning bolt scar on his forehead with one sharp fingernail. This scar is a gift, boy. A blessing. It connects you to the Dark Lord in ways others can only dream of. You are special. Chosen. Never forget that. Harry learned not to ask about his parents. The one time he'd said, my mummy, Bellatrix had gone very still. Your mother, she'd said quietly, dangerously, was a filthy mudblood who stole magic that didn't belong to her. She betrayed the natural order. She is nothing, less than nothing. You will not speak of her again. But, do you want to be like her? Do you want to be disgusting, inferior, worthy only of contempt? No. Then never mention her again. You came from nowhere. You were nothing until I made you into something. Remember that. Harry learned to remember that. The Draco complication. Draco Malfoy was 7 weeks younger than Harry, born on June 5, 1980. For the first 5 years of their lives, they were kept carefully separated. Draco lived in the West Wing with Narcissa and Lucius. Harry lived in the East Wing with Bellatrix. They saw each other occasionally at meals, supervised by adults, but never played together. Narcissa insisted on the separation. She didn't want her precious son corrupted by Bellatrix's project. But when Harry turned 5, Lucius made a decision that would change everything. They need to learn to work together, Lucius said at dinner one evening. Harry will be a powerful ally when he's grown. Draco should learn to command that power, not fear it. Draco doesn't fear anything, Narcissa said sharply. I didn't say he did. But they're the same age, Narcissa. Keeping them apart is impractical and wasteful. Let them train together. It will make both of them stronger. Bellatrix agreed immediately. The boy needs someone to compete against, someone to push him to excel. Draco would be perfect. Narcissa wanted to refuse, but Lucius had made his decision, and in the Malfoy household, Lucius's word was law. The next day, Harry and Draco met properly for the first time in the Manor's practice room. You're the Potter boy, Draco said. He had white blonde hair, pale skin, and gray eyes that studied Harry with cold calculation. Mother says you're Aunt Bella's project. I'm not a project, Harry said. I'm a weapon. Same thing. Draco circled him like a predator evaluating prey. You don't look that special. You're small. Skinny. I bet I'm stronger than you. Physical strength is for muggles, Harry said, repeating Bellatrix's lessons. Magic is what matters. And I'll be more powerful than you'll ever be. Draco's face flushed with anger. You're a half-blood. Your mother was a mudblood. You're barely better than a squib. The words hit Harry like a physical blow. He'd known, on some level, that his mother had been Muggle-born. Bellatrix had told him. But hearing it said so viciously, as an insult by someone who was supposed to be his equal, Harry's magic reacted before his mind could catch up. The windows exploded outward in a shower of glass. Draco was thrown backward against the wall, sliding down with a cry of pain. Bellatrix appeared in the doorway within seconds. "What happened?" she demanded. "He called my mother a mudblood," Harry said. His voice shook. "He said I'm barely better than a squib." Bellatrix looked at Draco, still crumpled against the wall, then at Harry, trembling with rage. Her expression was unreadable. "Both of you, come here." They approached. Draco looked terrified. Harry felt suddenly cold with fear. Had he disappointed Bellatrix? Had he failed some test? "Draco," Bellatrix said quietly, "Harry's blood status is not a weakness. It's a complication he must overcome through power. Mocking him for something he cannot change is beneath you. Do you understand?" "Yes, Aunt Bella." "Harry." She turned to him. "Draco spoke the truth. Your mother was a mudblood. That is a fact. You can either let that fact destroy you, or you can use it as fuel to become stronger than anyone expects. Which will you choose?" Harry swallowed hard. "Stronger." "Good. Then prove it. Both of you will train together from now on. You will compete. You will push each other. And you will learn that blood status means nothing compared to power." She smiled her cold smile. "Now shake hands. You're brothers now. Even if you hate each other." They shook hands. Harry's grip was tight enough to hurt. So was Draco's. Brothers. Harry thought about that word later, lying in bed. He didn't know what brothers were supposed to feel for each other, but he suspected it wasn't this mixture of resentment, competition, and the desperate need to prove himself superior. Draco hated him for being Bellatrix's focus. Harry hated Draco for being pure blood, legitimate, secure in his worth. But they would be brothers anyway, because Bellatrix commanded it. Ages 5, 8, the darkness begins. The next 3 years were when Harry learned what it meant to be a weapon. Bellatrix introduced him to the dark arts slowly, methodically. Theory first, what dark magic was, why it required certain emotions, how it differed from conventional spellwork. "Dark magic requires intent," Bellatrix explained. "You cannot cast the Cruciatus curse with righteous anger or moral outrage. You must genuinely want to cause pain. You must take pleasure in suffering. Do you understand?" "I think so. You will learn." She smiled. "We'll start small." The first lesson involved a rat, a common brown rat conjured for the purpose. "Make it suffer," Bellatrix commanded. "Use your wand, any spell you know, but make it hurt." Harry was 6 years old. He stared at the rat, which was trying to escape the glass cage Bellatrix had trapped it in. "I don't know how." "Then, pain comes from intent, from desire. You want power, don't you? Power requires the willingness to inflict suffering on those weaker than you." Harry raised his wand, tried a stinging hex he'd seen Draco practice. The rat squeaked but didn't seem seriously hurt. "Pathetic," Bellatrix said. "Again, with feeling this time." Harry tried again, and again. By the end of the lesson, the rat was dead, not from any particular spell, but from cumulative damage. Harry felt sick. "Better," Bellatrix said, "but you hesitated too much. Hesitation is weakness. Tomorrow we'll try again." They tried again. Day after day, week after week, rats, then larger animals. Harry learned to disconnect his emotions from his actions, learned that if he thought of the animal as an obstacle to Bellatrix's approval, rather than a living thing, the spells came easier. By age 7, he could make a cat scream without flinching. "Excellent," Bellatrix said. "You're ready for the next stage." The next stage was occlumency, the art of closing one's mind against intrusion. "Dumbledore will try to read your thoughts if you ever encounter him," Bellatrix explained. "The Dark Lord will certainly do so when he returns. You must learn to protect your mind, to hide your true thoughts behind false ones." Occlumency was excruciating. It required Harry to relive his worst memories, being called half-blood, being told his mother was filth, the constant pressure to prove his worth, and then build walls around those memories. "Legilimens," Bellatrix would shout, and Harry's mind would be invaded. She would tear through his thoughts like ripping pages from a book, exposing everything he tried to hide. Then she would make him try again, and again, and again. "You're weak," she said after a particularly brutal session when Harry was 8. "Your emotions rule you. The Dark Lord will see through you in seconds, unless you learn control. I'm trying. Try harder. Or accept that you'll never be worthy of his attention." That night, Harry lay in bed and touched the scar on his forehead. It had hurt during the occlumency lesson, a sharp, burning pain that had nothing to do with Bellatrix's legilimency. The scar had been hurting more often lately, sharp pains that came without warning. Sometimes Harry saw flashes of images he didn't understand, a dark room, a high-pitched voice, overwhelming rage. He didn't tell Bellatrix. Instinct told him this was something private, something between him and the mark the Dark Lord had given him. Maybe this was the connection Bellatrix spoke of, the blessing, the gift. Harry closed his eyes and tried to embrace the pain. Ages 8. 10. The weapon-sharpened training intensified as Harry approached double digits. Draco trained alongside him now, their competition pushed by both Bellatrix and Lucius. Draco was better at pure-blood social graces, at manipulation, at presenting the perfect aristocratic facade. Harry was better at raw magical power, at combat spells, at the willingness to go further than Draco could stomach. "You're too soft," Harry told Draco once, after Draco had hesitated during a particularly brutal practice session involving a stunned house elf. "I'm not soft. I'm civilized. Civilized is another word for weak, and vicious is another word for mad. You're starting to sound like Aunt Bella." Harry took that as a compliment. Draco meant it as an insult. Their relationship was complicated. They competed viciously during lessons, but at night, when the adults were asleep, they sometimes sat together in the manor's library and talked. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like?" Draco asked once. "If we were normal? If we could go to Diagon Alley or play Quidditch with other children?" "No," Harry lied. "This is better. We're being trained to be powerful, to serve the Dark Lord. That's worth more than playing games with blood traders. Right?" "Of course." Draco was quiet for a moment. "Harry, does your scar ever hurt?" Harry's hand went automatically to his forehead. "Sometimes." "Why?" "Because you get this look when it does. Like you're somewhere else, somewhere far away. It's nothing. Just a reminder of who I belong to." "You don't belong to anyone. You're not a house elf. I belong to the Dark Lord's cause. We both do. That's what we're being raised for, I suppose." Draco didn't sound convinced. "But Harry, if the Dark Lord does return, and if he's not what Aunt Bella says he is what she says he is. He's perfection. Power. Everything we should aspire to be. You sound like you're reciting lessons. That's because I am, and you should too, unless you want Bellatrix questioning your loyalty." Draco, shut up after that. But Harry saw the doubt in his eyes. The questions Draco was too afraid to voice. Harry didn't have those doubts. He couldn't afford to. His entire identity was built on serving the Dark Lord. Without that purpose, what was he? A half-blood raised by Death Eaters, trained in magic that would mark him as dark, with nowhere to go and no one who would want him. The Dark Lord's return wasn't just his purpose. It was his salvation. When Harry was 9, Bellatrix decided he was ready for the Cruciatus Curse. "The theory is simple," she explained. "They were in the practice room with another rat trapped in a cage. You must mean it. You must want to cause pain for its own sake. Righteous anger isn't enough. You need genuine sadism." "How do I learn that?" "You already know it. You've been practicing for years. The only difference now is the spell itself," she demonstrated, pointing her wand at the rat. Crucio. The rat's screams were unlike anything Harry had heard before. They were high-pitched, agonized, endless. The creature thrashed in the cage, its body contorting impossibly. Foam appeared at its mouth. Bellatrix held the curse for 10 seconds. Then she released it. The rat collapsed, still breathing but barely. "Your turn." Harry raised his wand, pointed at the rat. It was trying to crawl away, dragging its broken body across the cage floor. Crucio. Nothing happened. Again, with feeling. "Crucio!" The rat twitched slightly. That was all. Bellatrix's expression darkened. "You're holding back. Why?" "I'm not. You are. You're thinking of it as just an animal. You're pitying it. That's weakness." She grabbed his wand hand, squeezed until his fingers went white. Feel this pain? Feel what I'm doing to you? That's what you need to want, to inflict, not because the rat deserves it, but because causing pain is power. She released him. Harry's hand throbbed. Try again. Harry looked at the rat, thought about what Bellatrix had said, about power, about the Dark Lord watching him, judging him, finding him wanting if he couldn't do this simple thing. Crucio, the rat screamed. Harry felt something cold and sharp bloom in his chest. Satisfaction. He was doing it. He was making this happen. The power was his, the control was his, and the rat's suffering proved his worth. He held the curse for 5 seconds before Bellatrix told him to stop. Better, she said. Her smile was genuinely pleased. Much better. We'll practice daily until it becomes instinct. By the time you're 11, you'll be able to hold the cruciatus for minutes at a time. Harry looked at the rat, now dead from the sustained torture. He felt nothing. No guilt, no horror, no remorse. Just satisfaction. He was becoming what Bellatrix wanted him to be, what the Dark Lord would need him to be. He was becoming a weapon. The blood status revelation. Harry was 10 years old when he fully understood what his mother's blood status meant. He'd known the facts for years. Lily Potter was Muggle-born. That made Harry a half-blood. But knowing and understanding were different things. The understanding came during a dinner at Malfoy Manor. The adults were discussing recent ministry politics, the increasing restrictions on Muggle-borns, the efforts to pass the Muggle-born Registration Act. They breed like rats, Lucius said, cutting his venison with precise movements. 1 generation of proper breeding laws, and we could eliminate the problem entirely. The problem is Dumbledore, Bellatrix said. He protects them. Treats them like they're equal to real wizards. It's disgusting. Half-bloods are nearly as bad, Lucius continued. Contaminated blood, pretending to be pure. At least Muggle-borns don't pretend. They know they're inferior. Harry went very still. Draco noticed. Kicked him under the table. But Narcissa had noticed too. Lucius, perhaps this conversation should wait. Why? Lucius looked at Harry. The boy should understand the reality of his situation. He's half-blood, Narcissa. Nothing changes that. All Bellatrix's training can do is make him powerful enough that his blood status becomes irrelevant. His blood status is already irrelevant, Bellatrix snapped. The Dark Lord himself was half-blood. It's power that matters. Only power. Harry's world tilted. The Dark Lord was half-blood, he said quietly. The adults went silent. Bellatrix's expression was murderous. Who told you that? She demanded. You just did. Bellatrix closed her eyes. Yes, the Dark Lord's father was a Muggle. But that doesn't matter. He transcended his blood through pure magical ability. He became more than his birth. That's what you'll do. That's what you're being trained for. But you said pure blood supremacy was everything. That blood defines worth. Power defines worth. Bellatrix's voice rose. Blood is simply the usual indicator of power. The Dark Lord proved that exceptions exist. You will be another exception. Do you understand? Harry understood. He understood that everything he'd been taught was a lie, that the ideology he'd built his identity around was contradicted by the very person he was supposed to serve. If the Dark Lord was half-blood, and if half-bloods were inferior, then the Dark Lord was inferior. But the Dark Lord was perfection, which meant the ideology was wrong. Or the Dark Lord was wrong. Harry's mind couldn't reconcile it. The cognitive dissonance was physically painful. I need to be excused, he said quietly. Harry, Bellatrix started. I need to be excused. He ran from the dining room before anyone could stop him. Found an empty corridor, slid down the wall and put his head between his knees. His scar was burning, sharp, agonizing pain that made his eyes water. And beneath the pain, he felt something else. Rage, fury, emotions that weren't his own, bleeding through the scar like infection through a wound. He didn't understand what was happening, didn't understand who he was supposed to be, what he was supposed to believe, whether anything Bellatrix had taught him was true. But one thing was clear. He couldn't show weakness. Weakness meant losing Bellatrix's approval. And that approval was all he had. Harry wiped his eyes, stood up and went back to dinner. I apologize, he said formally. I was overcome by emotion. It won't happen again. Bellatrix studied him. What are you thinking, boy? Harry met her eyes. used every scrap of occlumency she drilled into him. I'm thinking that power is all that matters, that the Dark Lord proved blood status is irrelevant for those strong enough to transcend it, and that I will transcend it, just like he did. Bellatrix smiled. Good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. She believed him. They all believed him. But late that night, alone in his room, Harry touched his scar and whispered to the darkness, "Who am I supposed to be?" The scar burned, and he heard no answer. Parcel Tongue, the Dark Lord's gift. The first time Harry spoke Parcel Tongue, he was 10 years old and didn't realize what he was doing. He'd been in the Manor Gardens, one of the few places he was allowed to go without supervision. A snake had slithered out from under a hedge, a common grass snake, harmless and small. "Hello," Harry said. The snake stopped, looked at him. "Hello, speaker," it hissed back. Harry blinked. Had the snake just talked to him? "Can you understand me?" he asked without thinking. "Yes, speaker. You speak the language of serpents. Few humans possess this gift." Harry stared. The snake was definitely responding. They were having a conversation, in a language that Harry somehow understood perfectly, despite never having learned it. "What are you?" the snake asked. "Wizard? Dark wizard? Why do you speak our tongue?" "I don't know. I've never done this before." "Then you are newly awakened. The gift comes from powerful magic, from death and dark power. You have touched something most humans cannot survive." Harry thought of his scar, of the curse that had rebounded on the Dark Lord. "I survived something I shouldn't have," he said slowly. "Does that explain it? Perhaps. Or perhaps you inherited the gift. Either way, speaker, you are marked by darkness. I taste it on you." The conversation ended when Bellatrix called for him. But Harry couldn't stop thinking about it. He could speak to snakes. Parcel Tongue, the language of Salazar Slytherin, the language of the Dark Lord himself. He needed to know if it was real. That night at dinner, he mentioned it casually. "I spoke to a snake today in the garden." Draco laughed. "You talked to a snake? What, was it your only friend?" "Not talked. Spoke in its language." Everyone went silent. "Show us," Bellatrix demanded. They went to the garden, found another snake, a larger one this time, probably drawn by magical properties of the manor's grounds. "Tell them who you are," Harry hissed at the snake. The snake responded in Parcel Tongue. To Harry, the words were clear. To everyone else it sounded like hissing. Bellatrix's face transformed. Her expression became almost worshipful. "The Dark Lord's gift," she breathed. "He marked you, boy. Not just with the scar, but with his power. Parcel Tongue is the rarest magical gift. Only descendants of Salazar Slytherin possess it. Only the Dark Lord himself could speak it in our generation. But I'm not descended from Slytherin. You don't need to be. The Dark Lord marked you that night. Gave you part of his power. Don't you see? This proves it. You're connected to him. Chosen by him. When he returns, he'll recognize you as his." Harry felt something shift in his chest. Relief, maybe. Or validation. The scar wasn't just a curse. It was a gift. A blessing. Proof that he belonged to something greater than himself. "Teach me to use it," Harry said. "The Parcel Tongue. There must be ways to weaponize it." "Oh, there are." Bellatrix's smile was sharp. Controlling serpents. Opening Parcel Tongue locked doors and containers. Commanding certain dark creatures. The Dark Lord used his Parcel Tongue to open the Chamber of Secrets at Hogwarts. Did you know that? No. Well, you do now, and when you're ready, you'll open it again. For him, the question of Hogwarts as Harry's 11th birthday approached, the adults faced a decision. What to do about Hogwarts. The Fidelius charm had blocked the school's letter, as expected. But that raised questions. Should Harry be educated at home, kept safe and controlled? Or should he be sent to Hogwarts as a sleeper agent, gathering intelligence and waiting for the Dark Lord's return? "He needs to go," Bellatrix argued. "Dumbledore expects Harry Potter to be there. If he's not, questions will arise. The old fool will investigate. Better to let Harry attend, act the part of the dutiful student, and gather information about Dumbledore's plans." "Too risky," Rodolphus countered. "Dumbledore will see through him. He'll reach Harry somehow, turn him against us. Dumbledore can't reach what he can't find. Harry's occlumency is strong enough to resist casual legilimency, and his loyalty is absolute. Aren't you, boy?" Harry, standing at attention while the adults debated his future, said, My loyalty is to the Dark Lord. I will do whatever serves his return. There, Bellatrix said triumphantly. He's ready. He's 10 years old, Narcissa said quietly. Bella, if this goes wrong, it won't go wrong. Harry will be placed in Slytherin. He'll befriend the right people. He'll learn what Dumbledore knows about the Dark Lord's disappearance. And when the time comes, he'll be positioned perfectly to strike. Lucius considered. We'd need a cover story. How did Harry survive the past 10 years? Who raised him? Distant relatives, Bellatrix said. Purebloods who preferred privacy. We can forge documents if necessary. The ministry is so corrupt they'll accept anything with enough gold behind it. And if Dumbledore uses legilimency on him, he won't get past the occlumency walls. Harry's been trained by the best. They looked at Harry. He stood straight, expressionless, everything Bellatrix had taught him to be. What do you want, Harry? Narcissa asked. Do you want to go to Hogwarts? No one had ever asked him what he wanted before. Harry thought about it. About leaving the manor's safety. About facing Dumbledore, the enemy Bellatrix had described in such detail. About being surrounded by blood traitors and mudbloods and people who would hate him if they knew the truth. I want to serve, Harry said finally. If going to Hogwarts serves the Dark Lord's return, then yes, I want to go. Bellatrix's smile was predatory and proud. Then it's decided, Harry will attend Hogwarts, and when the Dark Lord rises again, he'll have a weapon already in place at the heart of Dumbledore's domain. Diagon Alley. The first test, August 15th, 1991. Harry Potter walked through the leaky cauldron for the first time in his life with Bellatrix at his side, her hand gripping his shoulder like a vice. She wore glamour charms, her face subtly altered, her hair brown instead of black, her clothing respectable rather than dramatic. To anyone watching, she appeared to be a stern but unremarkable witch accompanying her nephew. Harry wore no glamours. His lightning bolt scar was clearly visible beneath his messy black hair. His green eyes, his mother's eyes, though he tried never to think of that, scanned the pub with calculated disinterest. Remember, Bellatrix murmured as they approached the brick wall leading to Diagon Alley. You are Harry Potter, raised by distant pure-blood relatives who valued privacy. You know nothing of Dumbledore's world, nothing of the so-called light side. You are curious, polite, and carefully neutral. Do you understand? Yes, Bellatrix. And if anyone asks about that night, Halloween 1981, what do you say? I don't remember. I was too young. My relatives told me my parents died, but nothing more. Good. She tapped the bricks with her wand in the required sequence. Now smile. Look like a normal child excited to visit the magical world. Harry smiled. It felt like putting on a mask, which, in a way, it was. The wall opened, and Diagon Alley revealed itself. Harry had expected to feel nothing. He'd been trained to see this world as inferior, as contaminated by Muggleborns and blood traitors. But seeing it, the shops with their impossible displays, the owls swooping between buildings, the witches and wizards in robes of every color, he felt something unexpected. Wonder. He crushed it immediately. Wonder was weakness. Wonder meant caring about something beyond power. First stop, Bellatrix said, steering him toward the white marble building at the end of the street. Gringotts. You have a vault, apparently. Your parents left you gold. Harry knew this. Bellatrix had discovered it through Lucius's ministry contacts. The Potter Vault, Vault 687, contained a small fortune, Harry's inheritance. Blood money, Bellatrix called it. Payment for being orphaned by his own failure to die properly. The goblin at the counter examined Harry with black eyes that seemed to see through his skin. Mr. Potter, the goblin said, we've been expecting you, though you're much later than anticipated. We sent your Hogwarts letter to your last known address years ago. I've been abroad, Harry lied smoothly. With relatives. We only recently returned to England. I see. The goblin's expression suggested he didn't believe this but wouldn't press. You'll need your key for Vault 687. Do you have it? No. I was never given one. Then we'll need to verify your identity. Blood magic, if you please. Harry pricked his finger on the ceremonial knife the goblin provided. 3 drops of blood fell onto a parchment that glowed gold. Then displayed text, Harry James Potter, born July 31st, 1980. Son of James Potter and Lily Potter, née Evans, heir to the noble house of Potter. Identity confirmed. Everything appears to be in order, the goblin said. Follow me. The cart ride deep into Gringotts was exhilarating in a way Harry hadn't expected. Speed, danger, the sense of plunging into darkness. It reminded him of Bellatrix's training, of being pushed to his limits and forced to survive. Vault 687 opened to reveal piles of gold galleons, silver sickles, and bronze nuts. "It's all yours," the goblin said. A modest inheritance by pure blood standards, but substantial enough. Harry stared at the gold. His parents had left this for him. James and Lily Potter, blood trader and mudblood, had accumulated this wealth through whatever means blood traders used. "Take what you need for school supplies," Bellatrix said quietly. "We'll return for more later if necessary." Harry filled a bag with coins, his mind calculating. This gold was his. Not Bellatrix's, not the Malfoys, not even the Dark Lord's. His. It was the first thing in his life that belonged to him alone. Ollivander's. The Brother Wands the wand shop was narrow and dusty, with a single wand displayed in the window. Harry entered with Bellatrix close behind, her wand hidden but ready. "Good afternoon," a soft voice said. An old man emerged from the shadows. "Mr. Ollivander," with pale eyes that reflected light like a cat's. "Harry Potter." Ollivander's voice was reverent, almost fearful. "I wondered when I'd be seeing you. It seems only yesterday your mother was in here herself, buying her first wand. 10¼ inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand for charm work." Harry said nothing. Ollivander was studying him like a specimen, and Harry didn't like it. "Your father, on the other hand, favored a mahogany wand. 11 inches. Pliable, excellent for transfiguration. I sold it to him myself when he was 11 years old." Ollivander moved closer. "Curious that you should be here at all, Mr. Potter. Most assumed you'd been sent to your Muggle relatives. The Dursleys, wasn't it?" "I was raised elsewhere," Harry said. His occlumency shields went up automatically. "Does it matter? Perhaps not. But I find it curious nonetheless." Ollivander pulled out a measuring tape. "Which is your wand arm?" "Right." The tape measure moved of its own accord, measuring Harry from shoulder to finger, wrist to elbow, shoulder to floor. Ollivander pulled boxes from shelves, muttering to himself. "Try this one beechwood and dragon heartstring. 9 inches, nice and flexible." Harry took the wand. Felt nothing. Ollivander snatched it back before he could even wave it. No, definitely not. Perhaps this maple and phoenix feather. 7 inches. Quite whippy. Again, nothing. Harry tried wand after wand. The pile of rejected wands grew higher. "Tricky customer, eh?" Ollivander looked almost pleased. "Not to worry. We'll find the perfect match here somewhere. I wonder." He disappeared into the back of the shop, returning with a dusty box that looked older than the others. Holly and phoenix feather. 11 inches. Nice and supple. Harry took the wand, and the world changed. Warmth flooded through his fingers, up his arm, into his chest. The wand felt like an extension of his body. Natural. Right. Powerful. He raised it instinctively, and red and gold sparks shot from the tip, illuminating the shop like fireworks. "Oh, bravo!" Ollivander cried. "Yes, indeed. Very good, but very curious." Harry lowered the wand slowly. "What's curious?" Ollivander's expression was strange, a mixture of fascination and dread. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. It so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand gave another feather. Just one other. It is very curious indeed that you should be destined for this wand when its brother... Why, its brother gave you that scar." Harry went very still. Bellatrix's hand tightened on his shoulder. "You mean..." Harry couldn't finish. "The Dark Lord's wand and your wand are brothers, Mr. Potter. Twin cores. I sold the Dark Lord his wand 50 years ago. 13½ inches. You. Curious indeed how these things happen. The wand chooses the wizard, remember? I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things. Terrible, yes, but great." Harry paid for the wand in a daze. Outside the shop, Bellatrix pulled him into an alley between buildings. "Brother Wands," she breathed. "Harry, do you understand what this means? The Dark Lord and I are connected. More than connected. Bound by magic itself. The wand chose you because you carry his mark, his power. This isn't coincidence. This is destiny. Bellatrix's eyes shone with fanatical devotion. When the Dark Lord returns, he'll see this. He'll understand that you were always meant to serve him. Harry looked at his wand, holly and phoenix feather, brother to Voldemort's yew wand. He felt the scar on his forehead begin to burn. Not with pain this time, with something else. Recognition, maybe, or power calling to power across the magical connection that bound them. I understand, Harry said quietly. The train ride. First contact, September 1st, 1991. Platform 9 3/4. Harry stood with Bellatrix at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, his trunk packed with school supplies and dark knowledge. Draco was somewhere ahead with Narcissa and Lucius. They'd separated to avoid anyone connecting Harry with the Malfoy family. Remember everything I taught you, Bellatrix said. Her glamour charms were in place again, making her unrecognizable. You are a blank slate. You know nothing of politics, nothing of the war, nothing of where your true loyalties lie. Make friends carefully. Trust no one. And Harry, yes, make me proud. Her hand touched his scar briefly. Make him proud. Harry nodded and walked through the barrier. The Hogwarts Express gleamed scarlet in the morning sun. Families crowded the platform, parents hugging children, owls hooting, last-minute instructions being shouted. Harry observed it all with detached interest, cataloging potential allies and threats. He found an empty compartment and settled in by the window. Watched Bellatrix's glamoured form disappear into the crowd. Then he was alone. Not for long. Excuse me. Do you mind? Everywhere else is full. A boy with red hair and freckles stood in the doorway, looking hopeful and slightly nervous. Harry assessed him quickly. Hand-me-down robes, worn trunk, probably poor. Weasley, then. Bellatrix had mentioned them. Blood traders who consorted with Muggles and Dumbledore. Go ahead, Harry said neutrally. The boy sat down across from him with obvious relief. Thanks. I'm Ron. Ron Weasley. Harry Potter. Ron's eyes went immediately to Harry's scar. Blimey. Are you really... you're him, aren't you, Harry Potter? That's what I said. That's wicked. My brothers told me about you. You're famous. You defeated you-know-who when you were a baby. Harry kept his expression carefully controlled. I don't remember it. I was 1 year old. Still, it's brilliant. Ron seemed to realize he was staring. Sorry, I'm being weird. Mum said I'd be weird. It's fine. I'm used to it. Harry leaned back, projecting casual disinterest. How many brothers do you have? 5. All older, and a younger sister, but she's not old enough for Hogwarts yet. Ron said this with the weary tone of someone constantly overshadowed. What about you? Any siblings? No, just me. Where were you raised? Everyone thought you were with your Muggle relatives, but you don't seem very Mugglish. Harry had prepared for this question. Distant relatives, pure-blood family. They preferred privacy. Oh, right. That makes sense, I suppose. Ron looked like he wanted to ask more but didn't dare. The compartment door opened again. A girl with bushy brown hair and an officious expression stood there. Has anyone seen a toad? A boy named Neville's lost one. No, Harry said. We haven't, Ron added, the girl's eyes fixed on Harry with sudden recognition. You're Harry Potter. Yes, I've read all about you, of course. In modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts and great wizarding events of the 20th century. It's fascinating what happened that night. The curse rebounding, you-know-who vanishing, though some of the accounts seem sensationalized. I don't remember it, Harry interrupted. And I haven't read any of those books. You haven't? The girl looked scandalized. But they're essential reading for understanding recent magical history. I'm Hermione Granger, by the way. And you are? She looked at Ron. Ron Weasley. Pleasure to meet you both. Hermione's attention returned to Harry. If you haven't read about yourself, how do you know what really happened that night? I know what I was told. My parents died. Voldemort. Harry used the name deliberately, watching their reactions. Both Ron and Hermione flinched. Tried to kill me and failed. That's all I need to know. But don't you want to understand the magic of it? The theory behind why the curse rebounded? Not particularly. Harry's tone was cold enough to make Hermione step back slightly. It happened. I survived. The rest is academic. Right. Well, if you see Neville's toad, let us know. She left. Ron let out a breath. She's intense. She's a mudblood, Harry said, then immediately regretted it. Too much truth, too fast. Ron's expression shifted. That's not, she's Muggle-born, yeah. But that doesn't mean... I'm sorry. Harry forced contrition into his voice. That was rude. I've been raised around people with very traditional views. I'm still learning what's appropriate to say. Ron's suspicion eased. Oh, right. I get that. My family's pure blood too, technically, but Mum would kill me if I called anyone that word. She says magical ability is what matters, not blood. That's very enlightened of her. Harry kept his voice neutral. I'm still figuring out what I believe. They talked for the rest of the journey. About Quidditch, about Hogwarts houses, about spells and magic, and everything except politics. Harry played his role perfectly. The curious, somewhat sheltered boy, eager to learn but without strong opinions. By the time they reached Hogsmeade Station, Ron had relaxed completely. He thought Harry was his friend. Harry knew better. Friends were liabilities. Friends were tools. Ron Weasley was potentially useful. That was all. The sorting, a choice made. The Great Hall was exactly as Bellatrix had described it. Vast, magnificent, enchanted ceiling, showing the night sky. 4 long tables packed with students watching the first years enter. Harry walked with the other new students, acutely aware of the whispers following him, people pointing, staring. His scar felt like it was burning under the weight of all that attention. Professor McGonagall, Bellatrix had described her in detail, warned him she was sharp and loyal to Dumbledore, led them to the front of the hall. A stool sat there with a patched wizard's hat on top. The hat opened its mouth and began to sing. Harry barely heard the words. He was too busy scanning the staff table. Dumbledore sat in the center, tall, silver-bearded, blue eyes twinkling behind half-moon spectacles. The most dangerous man in the wizarding world, according to Bellatrix. The man Harry needed to deceive for the next 7 years. Beside Dumbledore sat a professor with a purple turban and nervous demeanor. Then a woman who looked stern and cat-like, McGonagall. And at the end of the table, a man with greasy black hair and a hooked nose, dressed entirely in black. Severus Snape. Bellatrix had told Harry about him too. Former Death Eater who'd turned traitor. Dumbledore's spy. Dangerous and clever, and not to be trusted. The sorting began. Names were called alphabetically. Granger, Hermione. The bushy-haired girl from the train practically ran to the stool. The hat sat on her head for nearly 4 minutes before shouting, Gryffindor. More names. More sortings. Harry waited, his heart pounding despite his training. Potter, Harry! The whispers exploded into full conversations. Harry walked to the stool, very aware that every eye in the hall was on him. He sat. McGonagall placed the hat on his head. Well, 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 a small voice said in his ear. Harry Potter, I've been waiting for you. Harry's occlumency shields went up automatically. Ah, impressive. Occlumency at age 11. Someone's been training you very thoroughly. The hat sounded intrigued. Let's see what we have here, courage. Yes, undoubtedly. Clever mind, sharp as a knife. Ambition? Oh my, such ambition. And cunning, the ability to deceive, to hide your true self. You do well in Slytherin, Mr. Potter. Very well indeed. Put me in Slytherin, Harry thought. You want Slytherin? How interesting. Most children who sit under me hope for Gryffindor, but not you. You know exactly what you want. The hat paused. Though I must say there's something very curious about you, Harry Potter. Something dark coiled around your mind. Not evil, precisely, but fragmented. As if you're not entirely whole. The Horcrux, Harry realized with sudden clarity. The hat could sense it. The piece of Voldemort's soul embedded in his scar. I don't know what you're thinking of, but I don't like it, the hat said. There are depths in you that shouldn't exist in a child. Cruelty learned through systematic training. Pain inflicted without remorse. You've been shaped into something dangerous, Harry Potter. The question is, do you want to be that? Or is there something else beneath all that darkness? Put me in Slytherin, Harry thought again, more firmly. Very well. Though I warn you, choices matter more than destiny. Remember that. The hat's voice rose to a shout. Slytherin. The Slytherin table erupted in applause. Harry walked over, feeling the weight of Dumbledore's gaze on his back. He'd done it. First test passed. He sat down at the Slytherin table next to a pale boy who looked vaguely familiar. "Draco Malfoy," the boy said, extending his hand. "I don't believe we've met." Harry shook it, keeping his expression neutral. "Harry Potter." "I know. Everyone knows." Draco's gray eyes studied him. "I heard you were raised by pure-blood relatives. Family friends of my parents, apparently, though I don't recall ever meeting you. We kept to ourselves, evidently." Draco smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Well, welcome to Slytherin, Potter. I think we're going to get along just fine." Harry smiled back, matching Draco's false warmth with his own. Around them, other Slytherins were introducing themselves. Pansy Parkinson, Theodore Nott, Blaise Zabini, all pure blood, all eyeing Harry with a mixture of curiosity and calculation. This was his house now, his cover, his chance to prove himself. At the staff table, Dumbledore was watching, and in Harry's scar, something pulsed with dark satisfaction. First night. The common room, the Slytherin common room, was everything Bellatrix had described. Underground, lit by green lamps, furnished with dark leather and carved wood. It felt cold and ancient and powerful. Harry claimed a chair near the fireplace and watched the other students interact, the pure-blood elite gravitating toward each other, the half-bloods keeping to the edges, trying to prove themselves worthy, the unspoken hierarchy establishing itself within hours. Draco held court like a prince, surrounded by admirers. He kept glancing at Harry, clearly trying to decide how to classify him. Potter, an older student, approached, a prefect badge on his robes. "I'm Marcus Flint, 6th year, Slytherin Quidditch captain. Hello. I hear you're living with pure-blood relatives. Care to share which family?" It was a test. Harry smiled. Distant connections, the kind that value privacy over social recognition. Interesting way to avoid answering. "I found that mystery serves better than transparency." Flint laughed. "Smart. I like you, Potter. Word of advice, don't trust anyone here. Slytherins excel at ambition and cunning, which means everyone's playing their own game. Figure out what yours is fast. Thank you for the advice. Don't thank me. I'm playing my game too." Flint walked away. Draco appeared at Harry's elbow. "Can I talk to you? Privately?" They moved to a corner of the common room, away from listening ears. "I know who raised you," Draco said quietly. Harry's heart rate spiked, but his expression remained neutral. "Do you?" "My parents mentioned you occasionally. Distant family project." That was the phrase they used. Draco's eyes were sharp. "You were raised by Aunt Bellatrix, weren't you?" "At the manor." Harry considered lying. Decided truth would serve better. Limited truth. "Yes. I thought so. I remember seeing you when I was very young, before you vanished." Draco leaned closer. "Why the secrecy? Why pretend you don't know us?" "Because your aunt decided it was safer. For everyone. You know who I am, Draco. You know what happened that night. There are people who want me dead. People who blame me for what happened to the Dark Lord." Draco's expression flickered. The name, the actual name, not you-know-who, had an effect. "So you were raised to be one of us," Draco said slowly. "Trained properly. Not sent to Muggles like everyone thought." "Yes. And now you're here, at Hogwarts, playing the innocent orphan while actually being—" Draco paused. "What exactly are you, Harry?" "The same thing you are. Someone waiting for the right moment." Draco smiled. It was genuine this time. "I knew it. I told Father you couldn't be what Dumbledore expected. You're too composed. Too careful." He extended his hand again. "Proper introduction, then. Draco Lucius Malfoy, heir to the Malfoy name. And I believe we're meant to be allies." Harry shook his hand. "Harry James Potter, raised by your aunt. And yes, we are. First classes." The Snape Problem Potions class was in the dungeons. Cold, dark, filled with preserved specimens in jars. Professor Snape swept into the room like a particularly malevolent bat, his black robes billowing behind him. Harry sat at the back with Draco, watching Snape carefully. Bellatrix had warned him. Snape was unpredictable. Former Death Eater who'd turned on the Dark Lord. He'd been in love with Lily Potter, Harry's mother, and that love had driven his betrayal, which meant Snape's reaction to Harry would be complicated. Snape began his speech about the subtle art of potion making. Then his eyes landed on Harry. "Ah, yes," Snape said softly. Harry Potter. Our new celebrity. The Slytherins smirked. The Gryffindors, this was a joint class, looked nervous. Tell me, Potter, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? Harry knew this. Bellatrix had drilled potions theory into him for years. The draught of living death, sir. A powerful sleeping potion. Snape's expression flickered. He'd expected ignorance. Where would you look if I asked you to find me a bezoar? The stomach of a goat. It's an antidote to most poisons. What is the difference between monkshood and wolfsbane? They're the same plant, sir, also called aconite. All three names refer to the same species. The classroom was silent. Snape stared at Harry with an expression Harry couldn't read. 5 points to Slytherin, Snape said finally, for adequate preparation, though I suspect someone coached you extensively before you arrived here. I was taught by someone who valued thorough education, sir. Clearly, Snape's eyes narrowed. Tell me, Potter, do you believe yourself special? Entitled to acclaim because of an event you don't even remember? No, sir. I believe I'm here to learn. Good. Because fame means nothing in this classroom. Talent and effort are what matter. I will be watching you very carefully, Mr. Potter. Very carefully indeed. It was a threat and a promise. Snape suspected something. He didn't know what exactly, but he suspected. Harry would need to be more careful around him than anyone else. The Hermione problem 2 weeks into term. Harry had established his position, top of the class academically, tied with Hermione Granger, frustratingly, respected among Slytherins, carefully neutral with other houses. But Hermione was becoming a problem. She asked too many questions, noticed too many details, and worst of all, she seemed genuinely interested in being Harry's friend. You're very good at defense against the dark arts, she said one day after class, falling into step beside him, better than anyone else in first year. Thank you. Where did you learn? I mean, most of us are starting from scratch, but you seem to already know advanced theory. My relatives valued practical education. Right. Your mysterious pureblood relatives. Hermione's tone was skeptical. It's just that you never talk about them. Never mention their names or where you lived or anything specific. It's like you appeared out of nowhere. Maybe I value privacy, or maybe you're hiding something. Harry stopped walking, looked at her directly. What do you want, Granger? I want to understand you. Everyone else just accepts that you're Harry Potter, the famous boy who lived. But there's more to you than that. I can tell. She met his gaze without flinching. You're too guarded, too controlled. No 11-year-old is that composed unless they've been through something significant. She was too smart, too observant, dangerous. You're right, Harry said quietly. I have been through something significant. I lost my parents when I was a baby. I was raised by people who were kind but distant. I learned early that showing emotion is weakness. Is that what you wanted to hear? Hermione's expression softened. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pry. Yes, you did. You always mean to pry. That's who you are. Harry's voice was colder now. You're brilliant, Hermione. Genuinely brilliant, but you need to learn when to stop asking questions. Some things are private. He walked away, leaving her standing in the corridor. But he knew she wouldn't stop. Hermione Granger was exactly the kind of person who couldn't leave a mystery unsolved. He'd need to decide soon, neutralize her as a threat, or find a way to make her an asset. The Halloween Troll, October 31st. Halloween. Harry had been dreading this day. 10 years ago, his parents had died. Voldemort had fallen. Harry's life had been irrevocably changed. And he felt nothing about it. He should feel something, he thought. Grief, anger, loss, something. But Bellatrix had trained those emotions out of him. His parents were abstract concepts. The blood traitor and the mudblood who died because they were weak. He didn't miss them. He'd never known them. The Halloween feast was interrupted by Professor Quirrell bursting into the great hall. Troll, he screamed. Troll in the dungeons. Thought you ought to know. Then he fainted. Chaos erupted. Dumbledore sent everyone back to their dormitories. The prefects began herding students out of the great hall. Harry followed the Slytherins toward the dungeons, then stopped. Something was wrong. Quirrell had said the troll was in the dungeons. They were heading directly toward it. But more importantly, Harry's scar was burning. Sharp, agonizing pain that made his eyes water. The scar only hurt when Voldemort was near or experiencing strong emotion. which meant either Voldemort was here, or something connected to him was. "Draco," Harry said quietly, pulling his friend aside. "The troll isn't the real threat?" "What do you mean?" "Quirrell. Did you see how he moved? How he positioned himself? That wasn't the behavior of a man who'd just encountered a troll. That was a performance. You think he's lying? I think he's up to something. And I think we should find out what." They slipped away from the group, moving through corridors with practiced stealth. Harry followed the pain in his scar like a compass needle. They found the troll on the 3rd floor, near the forbidden corridor Dumbledore had warned about. And they found Hermione Granger, cornered by the massive creature. "Help!" she screamed. "Someone help!" Draco looked at Harry. "We should get a professor." "No time." Harry pulled his wand. "Distract it. I'll handle the rest." "You're insane, Draco." "Trust me." Draco cursed but raised his wand. Lumos Maxima. Bright light exploded in the troll's face. It roared, confused, swinging its club blindly. Harry moved, not toward the troll, toward Hermione. "Stay behind me," he commanded. "What are you doing? Following orders or dying? Your choice." The troll charged. Harry spoke in Parseltongue, a hissing command he'd practiced in secret. "Sleep. Dream. Forget." It was a long shot. Trolls weren't serpents. But the Parseltongue contained magic beyond words. Command magic, dark and primal. The troll slowed. Its eyes glazed. It swayed like it was drunk. "Wingardium Leviosa." Draco's voice was shrill with panic. The troll's club lifted, then crashed down on its own head. The creature collapsed with a sound like a falling building. Silence. "Is it dead?" Hermione whispered. "Unconscious," Harry said. His scar was still burning. "We need to leave. Now." But McGonagall had already arrived, with Snape and Quirrell behind her. "What on earth were you three thinking?" McGonagall demanded. "You could have been killed." "It was my fault, Professor," Hermione said quickly. "I thought I could handle the troll myself. Harry and Draco came to save me." McGonagall looked at the unconscious troll. At Harry and Draco, both holding wands. At Hermione, unharmed despite the destruction around her. 5 points will be taken from each of your houses for this dangerous foolishness," she said. "But you will each receive 10 points for defeating a fully grown mountain troll. Mr. Potter, Mr. Malfoy, sheer dumb luck protects fools. Miss Granger, I'm disappointed in your judgment. Now all of you, return to your dormitories immediately." They left, but Harry caught Snape staring at him with an expression of profound suspicion. And Quirrell's eyes met Harry's for just a moment, and Harry felt the scar burn with recognition. Something was very wrong with Professor Quirrell. The investigation begins. That night, Harry couldn't sleep. His scar throbbed with dull, persistent pain. The sensation of wrongness hadn't faded since the troll incident. He needed information. At midnight, Harry slipped out of the dormitory under cover of darkness. Bellatrix had taught him advanced disillusionment charms. Not quite invisibility, but close enough. He moved through the castle like a ghost. The 3rd floor corridor was forbidden, which meant whatever Dumbledore was protecting was there. Harry found the door. Locked, obviously. Alohomora. The lock clicked. Harry opened the door carefully. 3 heads turned to look at him. 3 massive snarling heads attached to one enormous body. A Cerberus. A 3-headed dog from Greek mythology. Guarding something. Harry looked down. Beneath the dog's paws was a trapdoor. "What's down there?" Harry whispered to himself. One of the heads barked. The others joined in. The noise was deafening. Harry closed the door and ran. Back in the Slytherin dormitory, he lay in bed and thought. Dumbledore was hiding something valuable enough to need a Cerberus guarding it. Something connected to Voldemort. Harry's scar had confirmed that. And Quirrell was involved somehow. The troll had been a diversion. But for what? Harry needed to find out. But he couldn't do it alone. The next morning he approached Draco. "We need to talk. Privately." In an empty classroom, Harry explained his suspicions. The forbidden corridor. The Cerberus. Quirrell's suspicious behavior. "You think Quirrell is after whatever's being hidden?" Draco asked. "I think he's working for someone. Someone who wants what Dumbledore is protecting." "Who?" Harry touched his scar. "Who do you think?" Draco went pale. "The Dark Lord? But he's gone. Is he? Or is he just displaced? Weakened? waiting for an opportunity to return. You sound like Aunt Bella. Your aunt is right about a lot of things. Harry met Draco's eyes. If the Dark Lord is trying to return, we need to know. We need to be ready. And we need to decide which side we're on. We've always been on his side, have we? Or have we been on the side our parents chose for us? Harry's voice was quiet but intense. This is our chance to choose for ourselves, Draco. Help Quirrell. Help the Dark Lord return. Or what? Or consider that maybe everything we were taught is a lie. Draco stared at him. You don't mean that. Don't I? Harry looked away. I don't know what I mean anymore. My scar has been hurting all year, getting worse. Like something's calling to me. Something dark. And I don't know if I should answer or run. What does Aunt Bella say? Aunt Bellatrix isn't here. It's just us. 2 11-year-olds trying to figure out what's real and what's propaganda. Draco was silent for a long moment. Then, we investigate. We find out what's being hidden. And then we decide what to do with that information. Together. Harry nodded. Together. The Hermione Alliance investigating required more resources than Harry and Draco had alone. They needed someone with perfect access to the library's restricted section. Someone brilliant enough to research without raising suspicion. They needed Hermione Granger. Harry found her in the library, buried in a stack of books about magical creatures. We need to talk, Harry said. Hermione looked up, surprised. About what? About why you were near the 3rd-floor corridor on Halloween. About what you were really doing when the troll found you. Her expression shuddered. I was in the bathroom. Crying, if you must know. Ron Weasley said something cruel. Ron said something cruel in the afternoon. You were found near the 3rd floor at night. Try again. Hermione closed her book slowly. What do you want, Harry? The truth. You were investigating something. Same as Draco and I are. Which means we're after the same information. We might as well work together. Why would I trust you? You're Slytherin. You called me a... She stopped herself. A mudblood. I know. I apologize for that. It was reflex, not belief. Harry sat down across from her. I was raised by people with very specific views about blood purity. I'm trying to unlearn them. But it's difficult when those views are all you've ever known. That's not an excuse. It's not. It's an explanation. There's a difference. Harry leaned forward. Hermione, you are the smartest person in our year. Possibly the smartest person in the school. I need that intelligence. Draco needs that intelligence. And I think you need allies who are willing to break rules when necessary. What are you investigating? What's being hidden under the 3rd floor? What Quirrell wants? And why my scar has been hurting all year? Hermione's eyes widened. Your scar hurts? Constantly. Worse when I'm near Quirrell. And on Halloween, when the troll appeared, it was agony, like something dark was nearby. That's not normal. I know it's not normal. That's why I need help figuring out what it means. Harry pulled out parchment. I'll show you everything Draco and I have found. You use that brilliant mind to fill in the gaps. We solve this together, deal? Hermione studied him. Looking for deception, for hidden motives. Harry let her look. Used every scrap of occlumency to project sincerity. Finally, she extended her hand. Deal. But Harry, if I find out you're using me, I'll make sure every professor in this school knows exactly what you're planning. Harry shook her hand. Fair enough. They had an alliance now. Slytherin cunning, Malfoy resources, and Gryffindor brilliance. Whatever Quirrell was after, they'd find it first. And then Harry would decide what to do with it. The Philosopher's Stone. Hermione found the answer 3 weeks later. The Philosopher's Stone, she said, spreading books across an empty classroom table. That's what's being hidden. It has to be. Harry and Draco leaned in, studying the text. Harry's finger traced the description. The Philosopher's Stone is a legendary alchemical substance, capable of turning base metals into gold and producing the elixir of life, which grants immortality. Nicholas Flamel, Hermione continued, pointing to another passage. He's the only known maker of the stone. 665 years old, and according to this article from last month, she pulled out a clipping from the Daily Prophet. There was a break-in at Gringotts, Vault 713. It had been emptied earlier that same day. By Hagrid, Harry said slowly, remembering. I saw him at Gringotts when I got my school supplies. He said he was picking something up for Dumbledore, from a high-security vault. Exactly. Dumbledore moved the stone from Gringotts to Hogwarts because someone tried to steal it. Hermione's eyes were bright with the thrill of solving a puzzle, and that someone is still trying to steal it. Quirrell, Draco said. But why? Hermione asked. What would Quirrell want with immortality? He's not that old. It's not for him. Harry interrupted. His scar was burning again, the dull ache that had become constant this year. He's working for someone else, someone who needs the elixir of life because they're barely clinging to existence. The implications hung in the air. The Dark Lord, Draco whispered. He's not dead. He's just displaced, weakened, and Quirrell is trying to bring him back. Harry touched his scar. The connection between him and Voldemort, the Horcrux he didn't know existed, the fragment of soul embedded in his forehead, pulsed with dark recognition. We need to decide, Harry said quietly. Right now. Do we help Quirrell? Do we try to stop him? Or do we wait and see what happens? Help him? Hermione's voice rose. Harry, he's trying to resurrect a dark wizard who murdered your parents. My parents were a blood traitor and a mudblood who got themselves killed by defying someone more powerful than they were. That's what I was taught. Harry's voice was flat, emotionless. The question is, do I believe what I was taught, or do I believe what everyone else says? Draco was staring at him. What do you believe? Harry closed his eyes. Tried to find something real beneath all the programming, all the training, all of Bellatrix's poison. I don't know, he admitted. I've been raised to worship the Dark Lord, to see his return as inevitable and right. But Hermione's right. He killed my parents. James and Lily Potter. They died trying to protect me. That has to mean something. It means they loved you, Hermione said softly. I don't know what love is. I was never taught love. I was taught power and loyalty and that emotions are weakness. Harry opened his eyes. But I know I don't want to be a weapon anymore. I want to choose for myself. So I'm asking you both. What should I choose? Draco looked torn. My family has always served the Dark Lord, my father would expect. I'm not asking what your father expects. I'm asking what you want. I want, Draco struggled. I want to not be terrified all the time. I want to make choices without wondering if they'll get my family killed. I want to be more than just my father's heir. Then help me stop Quirrell, Harry said. Not because Dumbledore is right, but because we're choosing ourselves over what our families decided for us. And if that choice gets us killed, then at least we made it. Hermione cleared her throat. Before you both commit to noble self-destruction, maybe we should have a plan. Like, how do we stop Quirrell from stealing the stone? Harry smiled, a real smile, not the calculated expression he usually wore. Now you sound like a Slytherin. I'll take that as a compliment. The Snape complication. Their investigation hit a wall when they realized Snape was also watching Quirrell. Harry noticed it during Quidditch practice. He'd made Seeker for Slytherin. His flying skills, honed by years of Bellatrix's brutal training, made him a natural. During a match against Hufflepuff, Harry spotted Snape in the stands, eyes fixed not on the game but on Quirrell, who sat several rows away. Snape's lips were moving, muttering something. Harry's broom began to buck and twist violently. He clung to it desperately, trying to regain control. Below, students were screaming. Above, the sky spun sickeningly. Then, just as suddenly, the broom steadied. Harry caught the snitch, muscle memory taking over, and landed shakily. You almost died, Draco said, running over. Your broom was cursed. It was Snape, Harry said. I saw him muttering a spell. But Quirrell was muttering too, Hermione added. She'd been watching from the stands. His lips were moving the entire time you were in trouble. I couldn't tell who was cursing you and who was trying to save you. That night, Harry confronted Snape. He found the potions master in his office, grading essays by wandlight. Harry knocked on the open door. Mr. Potter. Snape's voice was cold. What do you want? To talk about Quirrell. Snape went very still. Close the door. Harry obeyed. Stood before Snape's desk with his occlumency shields at maximum strength. What do you know about Quirrell? Snape demanded. I know he's after the Philosopher's Stone. I know he's working for someone. And I know you've been watching him. Harry met Snape's black eyes. I also know you were muttering a counter-curse during the Quidditch match. You were trying to save me, not kill me. And how do you know that? Because if you wanted me dead, I'd be dead. You're too skilled to fail at a simple broom curse. Harry paused. You're protecting me. Why? Snape's expression was unreadable. You look exactly like your father. Every time I see you, I see James Potter. Arrogant, entitled, thinking the rules don't apply to him. I should hate you, but you have your mother's eyes. Snape's voice cracked slightly. Lily's eyes, and I made a promise. To Dumbledore, to myself, to her memory. Snape stood, moving to the window. I loved your mother, Potter. She was everything good in the world, and your father took her from everyone who cared about her. She died because of choices I made, choices that led the Dark Lord to her door. Harry's mind raced. You were the one who told Voldemort about the prophecy. Dumbledore told you? No, but it makes sense. You were a Death Eater. You heard something about a prophecy. You told Voldemort, and he went after my parents. Harry's voice was cold. You killed them. Not directly, but you might as well have. Yes. Snape turned to face him. I killed them, and I have spent every day since trying to atone. Which is why I'm protecting you now, despite the fact that you are clearly hiding something. You were raised by Bellatrix Lestrange, weren't you? Harry's shields almost cracked. Almost. What makes you think that? Your occlumency is too advanced for a first-year who claims to have been raised by distant relatives. Your knowledge of dark magic theory exceeds your years. And most damningly, you speak of the Dark Lord without fear. You use his name. That's not ignorance, Potter. That's familiarity. Hypothetically, Harry said carefully, if I were raised by Bellatrix, what would you do about it? I would ask you one question. Are you here to help Quirrell steal the stone, or to stop him? Stop him. Why? Because I'm tired of being someone's weapon. Bellatrix raised me to serve the Dark Lord, but I don't know if I want to serve someone who murdered my parents. Harry's voice was raw with honesty he hadn't intended. I don't know who I am, Professor. I don't know what I believe, but I know I don't want to help resurrect Voldemort. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Snape studied him for a long moment. You're more your mother's son than your father's. That's something, at least. Will you help us stop Quirrell? I've been trying to stop him all year. The man is surprisingly difficult to catch in the act. Snape sat back down. If you and your friends attempt to go after the stone yourselves, I will stop you. You're children. This is not your fight. It's always been my fight. I just didn't choose it until now. Then choose wisely, Potter. Because Bellatrix will come for you if you betray what she raised you to be, and she is not forgiving. Harry left the office with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. Snape was an ally. Reluctant, bitter, motivated by guilt, but an ally nonetheless. The final exam period as exams approached, Quirrell grew more desperate. Harry could feel it through the scar. Increasing agitation, urgency, rage. Whoever Quirrell was working for, Voldemort, Harry was certain now, was pushing him to act soon. We need to tell Dumbledore, Hermione insisted during one of their secret meetings. This is too big for us. Dumbledore won't believe us, Draco interrupted. Think about it. Harry Potter, raised by Death Eaters, suddenly warning about a professor trying to resurrect the Dark Lord? He'll think it's a trap. Or he'll think I'm trying to help Quirrell and use us as bait, Harry added. No. We handle this ourselves. How? Hermione demanded. We're first years. We don't know enough magic. I know enough. Harry's voice was quiet but certain. Bellatrix taught me things that aren't in the curriculum. Dark things. If Quirrell goes after the stone, I can stop him. Harry, you can't use dark magic in the school. I'll use whatever I need to use. They stared at each other. Hermione looked horrified. Draco looked resigned. We're really doing this, Draco said. We're really going to fight a dark wizard. Yes, Harry said. And we might die. So if either of you want to back out, we're not backing out, Hermione said firmly. But Harry, promise me you'll try to do this the right way first. No dark magic unless absolutely necessary. I promise to try. It wasn't much of a promise, but it was all Hermione would get. The night of the stone, June 4th. The night before their final exams. Harry's scar woke him at midnight with burning pain. Not the dull ache he'd grown used to, but sharp, agonizing fire that made him cry out. Draco woke immediately. Harry, what's wrong? He's here, In the castle. Going for the stone. Harry stumbled out of bed, pulling on robes over his pajamas. Get Hermione. Meet me outside the third-floor corridor. Now. Harry ran through the castle, not caring who saw him. The pain in his scar was a compass needle pointing directly at Quirrell. Hermione and Draco arrived minutes later, out of breath. This is insane, Hermione gasped. We should get McGonagall. No time. He's already inside. Harry pointed his wand at the locked door. Alohomora. The three-headed dog was asleep. Someone had been playing music. A harp sat nearby, still playing itself, though the magic was fading. Someone's already through, Draco said. Quirrell. Come on. They jumped through the trapdoor together, landing on something soft and vine-like. Devil's snare, Hermione shouted. Stop moving, it hates light and heat. Lumos solem. The plant recoiled. They dropped through to the next chamber. Flying keys. Hundreds of them, swarming like angry insects. Harry spotted the correct key. Large, old-fashioned, silver with a bent wing. I'll get it, Harry said, mounting the broomstick someone had left there. He shot into the air, dodging and weaving through the swarm of keys. His seeker instincts kicked in. He caught the key in under a minute. Through the door. The next chamber held a giant chessboard. I know chess, Draco said. Let me handle this. They positioned themselves as pieces. Draco directed them brilliantly, sacrificing pieces strategically. But when the opposing queen cornered him, Draco made a choice. Harry, when I move, you'll have checkmate. Take the king. Draco, no. Do it. The queen moved, struck Draco hard. He fell, unconscious but breathing. Harry, fighting panic, moved his piece. Checkmate. The opposing king threw down its sword. Hermione, stay with Draco, Harry commanded. I'm going on alone. Harry, you can't. Yes, I can. I have to. Harry met her eyes. If I don't come back, tell Dumbledore everything. About Bellatrix. About how I was raised. Tell him I chose to stop Quirrell anyway. Harry. But he was already through the next door. The final chamber held the Mirror of Erised and Professor Quirrell. The confrontation, Potter. Quirrell's voice was steady now, the stutter gone completely. I wondered when you'd arrive. Harry raised his wand. Step away from the mirror. I can't. I'm so close, I can see myself presenting the stone to my master, but I can't work out how to get it. Quirrell's eyes were wild, desperate. Perhaps you can help. The mirror's magic is strange. It shows desire, but I don't know how to make desire real. I'm not helping you. No? Even though you were raised to serve him? Even though Bellatrix Lestrange has spent 10 years molding you into the Dark Lord's perfect weapon? Harry went cold. How do you know that? He told me. My master knows everything about you, Harry Potter. He's been watching you through me all year, feeling your presence, tasting your potential. Quirrell smiled horribly. He's very disappointed in your choices this year, making friends with mudbloods, questioning what you were taught, choosing Dumbledore's side over your destiny. The Dark Lord is here. Harry's scar was screaming with pain. Where? Let me show you. Quirrell began unwrapping his turban. Where the back of his head should be was a face, flat, snake-like, with red eyes and slits for nostrils. Voldemort, Harry Potter, the face hissed. The boy who lived. How fitting that we meet again at last. Harry couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This was the Dark Lord, the man Bellatrix had worshipped, the man Harry had been raised to serve, the man who'd murdered his parents. You're afraid, Voldemort observed. Good. Fear shows wisdom. I am everything Bellatrix told you I was. Power incarnate, magic perfected, the rightful ruler of the wizarding world. You're a parasite, Harry said. His voice shook but held, clinging to Quirrell's head like a tumor. Temporary weakness. Soon I will have the stone. Soon I will be restored to power. And when I am, Harry Potter, you will have a choice to make. Voldemort's red eyes bored into him. Serve me as Bellatrix intended, or die as your parents did. Choose. Harry's mind raced. Bellatrix had prepared him for this moment. The moment when he would kneel before the Dark Lord and pledge eternal service. Everything he'd been trained for culminated here, but something else was warring in his chest, something that felt like his mother's eyes looking back at him from mirrors, something that felt like Hermione's friendship, Draco's trust, even Snape's grudging protection. Something that felt like choice. "Let me try the mirror," Harry said. "I'll get you the stone." "Harry! No!" Hermione's voice came from the doorway. She'd left Draco and followed. "Don't help him. Stay back, Hermione," Harry commanded. "This doesn't concern you. It concerns all of us. He's evil. I know what he is." Harry's voice cracked. "I've known my whole life. But maybe there's a reason he survived. A reason he's meant to return. Maybe Bellatrix was right about everything." He walked to the mirror, looked into it. His reflection stared back. But unlike the reflection, Harry wasn't alone. Standing behind him in the mirror were 4 people. A man with messy black hair and glasses, a woman with red hair and green eyes, a stern-looking woman who somehow felt safe, and a greasy-haired man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. James and Lily Potter, McGonagall, Snape. The people who'd loved him, protected him, even when he didn't deserve it. Harry's reflection smiled, reached into its pocket, pulled out a blood-red stone, winked, put it back. Harry felt sudden weight in his real pocket. "Well," Voldemort demanded, "what do you see?" Harry turned to face them. His hand closed around the stone. "I see the truth," he said quietly. "Bellatrix lied. You're not perfection. You're just a man who's so afraid of death that you'd tear your soul apart to avoid it. You murdered my parents because a prophecy scared you. You're not powerful. You're pathetic." Voldemort's face contorted with rage. "Seize him! Bring me the stone!" Quirrell lunged. His hands closed around Harry's throat, and Quirrell screamed. His hands were burning where they touched Harry's skin. Blistering, smoking. The smell of cooking flesh filled the chamber. "What is this?" Voldemort shrieked. "What magic?" Harry understood suddenly. Lily's protection. The love she'd given him when she died. It lived in his blood, his skin, his very being. Quirrell, possessed by Voldemort, couldn't touch him without being burned by it. Love was protecting him. The thing Bellatrix had told him was weakness was keeping him alive. "My mother's love," Harry gasped, Quirrell's hands still on his throat even as they burned. "The thing you'll never understand. Fool. Love cannot stop me. I am immortal. I am power itself." "No." Harry grabbed Quirrell's face with both hands. "You're just evil. And evil burns." Quirrell's face began to crack and crumble where Harry touched him. Voldemort's spirit screamed, an inhuman sound of rage and agony, and abandoned Quirrell's body. Dark smoke streamed past Harry, through the chamber, disappearing into nothing. Quirrell collapsed, dead. Harry stumbled backward, the stone still in his pocket. Hermione ran to him, catching him before he fell. "You did it," she breathed. "Harry, you stopped him." "I betrayed everything," Harry whispered. His scar was burning. His whole body was shaking. "Bellatrix will kill me. When she finds out what I did, she'll have to go through all of us first," Hermione said fiercely. Dumbledore appeared in the doorway, McGonagall and Snape behind him. The headmaster's blue eyes took in the scene. Quirrell's body, Harry clutching the stone, Hermione supporting him. "Harry," Dumbledore said gently. "Give me the stone." Harry held it out. His hand was shaking. "I chose wrong. Everything Bellatrix taught me, I chose against all of it. I don't know who I am anymore." "Then perhaps," Dumbledore said, taking the stone carefully, "it's time to discover that for yourself." The hospital wing. Harry woke 3 days later in the hospital wing. His first thought was, Bellatrix knows. She must know. I failed her. His second thought was, I'm glad I failed. The contradiction made his head hurt worse than the residual pain from Quirrell's attack. Dumbledore sat beside his bed, eating what looked like sherbet lemons. "Ah, you're awake. How do you feel?" "Like I betrayed everything I was raised to believe." "Yes, I imagine you do." Dumbledore's eyes were knowing and sad. "Bellatrix Lestrange raised you to be a weapon. Instead, you chose to be a person. That must be quite disorienting." "You know about Bellatrix." "I've known since your sorting. The Sorting Hat warned me you'd been trained in occlumency and dark magic." Professor Snape confirmed his suspicions shortly after. "We've been watching you all year, Harry, waiting to see what choices you would make. And if I'd chosen wrong, if I'd helped Quirrell, then we would have stopped you. But you didn't choose wrong. You chose yourself. That's the most difficult choice of all." Harry closed his eyes. "Bellatrix will come for me. When she finds out, Bellatrix Lestrange is currently in Azkaban. She has been for 5 years. Dumbledore's voice was gentle. She and her husband were arrested for torturing Frank and Alice Longbottom into insanity. They've been imprisoned since 1986. Harry's world tilted. No, that's impossible. She raised me until I came here. Did she, or did others raise you in her place, following her instructions? Harry, I need you to tell me everything, where you've been for the past 10 years. Who had custody of you? Everything. The truth spilled out. Malfoy Manor, the Fidelius charm, Narcissa's distant care and Bellatrix's brutal training, though Bellatrix had only been there for the first 5 years before her arrest. After that, it had been Narcissa and Lucius following her instructions, with occasional visits from Rodolphus. The Malfoys, Dumbledore said heavily. I suspected Lucius of Death Eater sympathies, but I never imagined. He stopped. Harry, you've been living with people who systematically abused and indoctrinated you. That's not your fault. I tortured animals. I learned the Cruciatus Curse. I believed every lie they told me about Muggle-borns and blood purity. Harry's voice broke. How is that not my fault? Because you were a child. Children believe what they're taught. The fact that you questioned those teachings, that you chose differently when it mattered, that shows who you truly are. Who am I? Dumbledore smiled sadly. That's what the next few years will help you discover. But Harry, you are not what Bellatrix tried to make you. You are your mother's son. And Lily Potter's son chooses love over hate. Always. The Malfoy reckoning the Ministry came for Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy. 3 days after Harry woke, Draco found out when Aurors appeared at breakfast, marching straight to the Slytherin table. Draco Malfoy, the lead Auror said, you'll need to come with us. Your parents are being arrested for harboring a kidnapped child and conspiring to corrupt a minor through dark arts indoctrination. The great hall went silent. Every eye turned to Draco, who sat frozen with a piece of toast halfway to his mouth. I don't understand, Draco said quietly. Your parents kept Harry Potter hidden for 10 years. They trained him in dark magic. They intended to use him as a weapon for you-know-who's return. The Auror's voice was cold. You're not under arrest yet, but we need to question you about what you knew. Draco looked at Harry. Harry looked back, guilt and apology warring in his expression. I knew, Draco said. I knew Harry was at the manor. I knew what Aunt Bella was teaching him. I helped cover for him when we got to Hogwarts. He stood. But Harry chose to stop Quirrell. He chose the right side. That has to count for something. That will be determined by the Wizengamot. They took Draco away. Harry tried to follow, but McGonagall held him back. You've done enough, Mr. Potter. Let the Ministry handle this. Draco made his own choices, as did you. Now both of you will face the consequences. The Wizengamot trial took place 1 week before the end of term. Harry sat in a chair in the middle of the courtroom. Chains attached to the arms. Though they didn't activate, he wasn't technically on trial. Around him sat 50 witches and wizards in plum-colored robes, all staring at him like he was a particularly interesting specimen. Dumbledore sat in the Chief Warlock's chair, looking older and more tired than Harry had ever seen him. Harry James Potter, Dumbledore said formally, you are not accused of any crime. However, this court needs to understand what happened during your childhood. Please state, for the record, where you have been since November 1st, 1981. Harry told them everything. Bellatrix finding him at Godric's Hollow. The decision to take him as a trophy for Voldemort. The Fidelius charm hiding him at Malfoy Manor. The brutal training, the indoctrination, the dark magic. He told them about learning the Cruciatus Curse on animals, about occlumency training that felt like mental torture, about being taught that Muggle-borns were inferior and that his mother's blood made him inherently lesser. And yet, Dumbledore said when Harry finished, when given the choice to serve Voldemort or stop him, you chose to stop him. Why? Because I realized that everything Bellatrix taught me was a lie. Blood purity is a lie. The Dark Lord being perfect is a lie. Even the idea that I'm a weapon, that was a lie too. I'm a person. And people get to choose. What do you choose now? Harry looked at the faces around him. Some sympathetic, some suspicious, some openly hostile. I choose to be better than what I was raised to be. I choose to learn what real magic is, not dark magic used for power, but magic that protects and creates and heals. I choose, his voice caught. I choose to be my mother's son. Not Bellatrix's weapon. The Wizengamot deliberated for 4 hours. Their verdict: Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy would serve 2 years in Azkaban for kidnapping, child endangerment, and conspiracy. Reduced sentence due to Harry's testimony that they'd saved his life by keeping him from worse alternatives. Draco would remain at Hogwarts under supervision, his inheritance held in trust until his majority. Bellatrix and Rodolphus Lestrange, already serving life sentences, would face no additional charges as they'd already been punished for worse crimes. Harry would receive intensive counseling, regular monitoring, and the offer of permanent residence with a suitable guardian if he wanted it. The court recognizes, Dumbledore announced, that Harry Potter is a victim in this matter. He was kidnapped as an infant, systematically abused, and trained to embrace ideologies he is now working to unlearn. We will provide whatever support he needs to heal from this trauma. Harry nodded numbly. He wasn't sure he deserved support. He'd enjoyed hurting those animals. He'd believed the lies about blood purity. He'd wanted to make Bellatrix proud. But he'd also chosen to stop Quirrell, to save the stone, to betray everything he'd been raised for. Maybe that made him a victim and a perpetrator. Maybe both things were true at once. The end-of-year feast. The House Cup ceremony was subdued. Everyone knew about Harry's trial. Everyone knew what had been hidden beneath his fame. Dumbledore stood to make his announcements. Another year has passed, and this year, we learned something important about choice, about how our decisions define us more than our circumstances. He looked directly at Harry. The House Cup this year goes to Gryffindor, who exemplified courage and loyalty in the face of danger. The Gryffindors cheered. Hermione caught Harry's eye and smiled. However, Dumbledore continued, I would like to award points for exceptional acts of bravery. To Miss Hermione Granger, for brilliant logic and standing by her friend even when that friend had been raised by dark wizards, 50 points. The applause was thunderous. To Mr. Draco Malfoy, for choosing truth over family loyalty and facing consequences with dignity, 50 points to Slytherin. Draco, sitting at the Slytherin table looking lost and alone, straightened slightly at the recognition. And to Mr. Harry Potter. Dumbledore paused. For making the most difficult choice a person can make, choosing to become something different than what he was raised to be, for rejecting indoctrination and embracing love even when love was a foreign concept, for protecting the stone and this school from a darkness he'd been taught to worship, 60 points to Slytherin. The hall erupted. Harry sat frozen, tears streaming down his face. He didn't deserve this. He'd done terrible things, believed terrible things, been complicit in his own corruption. But he'd also chosen differently. At the end, when it mattered, he'd chosen love over hate. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. King's Cross Platform 9 3/4 was chaos. Families collecting children, trunks being loaded, owls hooting goodbye. Harry stood alone with his trunk, watching other students reunite with parents who loved them. He had nowhere to go, no family waiting. Harry, he turned. Hermione stood there with her parents, a pleasant-looking muggle couple who smiled at him nervously. These are my parents, Hermione said. Mum, Dad, this is Harry Potter, the friend I told you about, the one who was raised by... Her mother stopped herself. I'm sorry. That was rude. It's fine, Harry said. It's true. Hermione mentioned you don't have anywhere to go for the summer, her father said. We'd like to offer, if you want, of course you could stay with us, just for a few weeks, until the ministry sorts out your guardianship situation. Harry stared at them. You want me to stay with you? Even though I was raised by Death Eaters? You were raised by terrible people who did terrible things to you, Hermione's mother said firmly. That's not your fault. And our daughter considers you a friend. That's good enough for us. Harry felt something crack in his chest. Not break, crack open, like something trying to grow. I don't know how to be normal, he warned. I don't know how to be part of a real family. I might say things wrong or do things wrong. Then we'll help you learn, Hermione said simply. That's what friends do. Harry looked at Draco, standing nearby with his trunk, waiting for ministry officials to collect him. Draco gave him a small nod. Go. Take the chance. Be better than we were. Harry looked at the Grangers, normal, kind, offering him something he'd never had. Okay, he whispered. Yes. Thank you. I'd like that. Epilogue. The choice that summer, Harry learned what normal felt like. He learned that dinner could be pleasant conversation instead of interrogation. That discipline could be gentle correction instead of punishment. That showing emotion wasn't weakness. It was being human. The nightmares were bad. He woke screaming sometimes, reliving the Cruciatus training, the occlumency sessions that felt like having his mind torn apart, the moment when Bellatrix's approval had meant everything. Hermione's mother held him when he cried and didn't ask questions. Her father taught him to play chess without making it about dominance and submission. Hermione just talked to him for hours about books and magic and theories, treating him like he was normal instead of damaged. "Do you think I can be good?" Harry asked her one night. They were in the garden, watching stars appear. "You already are good," Hermione said. "You made good choices when it mattered. But I still believe some of what Bellatrix taught me. Sometimes I catch myself thinking blood purity makes sense, or that power is the only thing that matters. The programming doesn't just go away. Of course it doesn't. You were raised with those beliefs for 10 years. Undoing that takes time." Hermione looked at him seriously. "But Harry, believing something doesn't make it true. You're questioning now. Examining. Choosing differently. That's what matters. What if I can't become someone different? What if I'm always going to be what Bellatrix made me? Then you'll be what Bellatrix made you, who chose to stop Quirrell anyway. Who chose friendship over ideology. Who chose love over hate even when love was terrifying." Hermione smiled. "You don't have to be perfect, Harry. You just have to keep choosing." Harry thought about that. About choice. About the mirror of Eriside showing him James and Lily not because he wanted them back, but because he wanted to be worthy of them. About Snape protecting him despite hating James. About Dumbledore offering second chances. About Hermione's parents letting a dark wizard-raised child stay in their home because their daughter believed in him. "I'm going to keep choosing," Harry said quietly. "Every day. Even when it's hard. Even when the programming tells me to choose differently. I'm going to choose love." "Good," Hermione said. "Because that's the power Voldemort knows not. Love, and you have more of it than you think." Harry looked at his scar in the reflection of the window. The lightning bolt that connected him to Voldemort. The mark of his mother's sacrifice. He'd been raised to see it as a blessing from the Dark Lord. A gift. A connection to power. But maybe it was something else. Maybe it was proof that love could survive even when everything conspired against it. That a mother's protection could outlast dark magic and indoctrination and systematic abuse. Maybe he was proof that people could change. That choices mattered more than destiny. Harry Potter had been raised to be a weapon, but he chose to be a person instead. And that choice, that simple, terrifying, magnificent choice, changed everything.